This is our complete DaVinci Resolve tutorial for beginners. We're going to share exactly how to use DaVinci Resolve 18 so that you can get up to speed editing fast with this powerful free video editing software. Now I'm going to be taking you through step by step using a Mac, but the process is exactly the same if you're on Windows or Linux as well. Alright, so this is what you'll see when you first open up DaVinci Resolve. This is your main project area screen. You can see all your previous edits and projects here. You've got the ability to view projects from network up here as well, and also the Blackmagic Cloud. So you can use this for backup, you can use this for working with teams, but for what we're gonna do here, we're gonna create a local project on this computer. We're gonna come down here to New Project. That's gonna pop up here for us to give our project a name. Let's go Test, Edit, and choose Create. Once we've created our project, this is what we will see. So we're gonna run through the interface stuff here quickly, and then we're gonna jump into editing our footage down. So probably the most important thing to understand here is that DaVinci Resolve is broken down into these pages down the bottom. So we've got a page for media where we can import and manage all of our video assets. We have a cut page here, which is great for cutting down a lot of footage to something more manageable really quickly. We have our edit page here. This is essentially what you would think of as your Adobe Premiere Pro. Like this is your main editing interface. Fusion is really DaVinci Resolve's answer to something like Adobe After Effects or Apple Motion. So it's for motion graphics, for animations and stuff, all built into DaVinci Resolve. Color is a dedicated area here for color grading, color correcting your projects. And there's a lot of professionals even using other tools that are bringing their projects into this color area here for finishing and for mastering. So this is really, really powerful. There's also a full professional audio tool suite in here as well called Fairlight. That's this next tab. And the last one here is Deliver. So this is where we can save and export all of our projects. And if we look at the way that these are actually lined up, this is your normal workflow progression from starting a project and importing everything, editing it down, adding some graphics and motion and stuff, color grading it, adjusting the sound right through to deliver. So it is laid out in a logical flow here. Now that definitely doesn't mean that you need to use all of these things. Primarily for me, what I use is the edit page, the color page, and deliver. Now down the bottom right-hand corner here, we've got this home button that'll take us back to that project window here that we saw at the start. We've also got our settings button down here as well. It's a good idea to jump into this first to make sure that our project is set up correctly. So straight away, we can see here our timeline resolution. Here we get to choose the resolution of the video that we want to create. So I'm just gonna choose 1920 by 1080 for this project here, but you can see on the free version of DaVinci Resolve, which is what I'm using right now, we can go up to 3840 by 2160 or Ultra HD. Now you also have the option in here to select this box here for vertical resolution. So if you're gonna create portrait videos, then you can check this, and then all of the resolutions up here now are for portrait videos. Let's uncheck this. Let's go back to 1920 by 1080. Now you also get to adjust your frame rate here as well. Ideally, this will be matching the footage that you've shot. So for me, my footage is shot primarily at 25 frames per second. So I'm gonna set that here to match. Now there are so many settings in here. A lot of them are gonna be fine for you just as default. So if you don't wanna get bogged down with this, or this is a little overwhelming at this point, then you're probably just good to go from here and jump straight into editing. But if you are someone who is a little bit more advanced, or you're someone who likes to geek out on this stuff and see all the things that you can control, then it's probably worth clicking through these to see what options you can configure up. One thing I personally like to make sure is enabled, which is on by default, is back on this master settings page here. If we scroll down and get to the optimize media and render cache here, I like to make sure that enable background caching is enabled, and after between 3 and 5 seconds. So this will detect if the computer is idle, if you're not actually doing anything, and it will start to background render and background cache your clips, giving you better performance. So I'm gonna hit on save to apply those settings now. And let's jump back here to the media page. So obviously this is where we can manage and import all of our clips and all of our media. And as with most tools like this, there's lots of different ways that we can do it. We can navigate through our hard drives here to find our clips. We can also come up the top here and choose File, Import, Media, and then go and find the things that we want to import. You've also got the ability just to drag and drop your clips in here too. But I'm gonna navigate through here. Let's find the footage that I want to use. I've got this clip here, camera 1080p. We're gonna choose open on that. And we can see this now showing down here in our media bin. Now what's cool about this is, as I said, you don't need to use all of these tabs. We actually could directly from the cut page import our media here as well. So we could right click and choose import media. Again, we could choose file, import media, and it's going to show here. But we also have the ability to import our clips directly from the edit page too. Again, with our media showing on the side here, we can easily import from here. So normally for me personally, I skip the media tab, but if I'm working on a big project, a documentary project with lots of different media from different cameras and things, I'll spend some time in this tab and I'll create some bins or some folders like footage, another new bin for music, and make sure that everything is organized into a logical place. And again, you also have the ability to do that from these other pages here too. So regardless of which one of these 3 pages you're on, you want to go through now and import your footage, any video assets that you want to use in your editing project. So now I'm going to quickly show you how the cut page works, and then we're going to move into edit for our actual editing. But again, depending on the project that you're using, you could maybe just get away with using the cut page if you're after something super simple. So let's come up here to footage. Let's find this clip that we imported. We can click and drag that down into our timeline. So this area down the bottom here is our video timeline. This is where we'll actually be performing our edit. Up the top here right now, we can see our media, but we can also change to these different areas with transitions and titles and effects and things to be able to access those up here too. And this will make more sense as we go through. This window here, this preview, this is showing us what it is we're actually editing. This is where we can play and preview back our editing masterpiece. We've also got a preview of our entire edit across the top here too. So while this bottom area here right now is fairly zoomed in, we're seeing the entire start through to finish of our project up the top here. Now to navigate between these, we can grab this red playback head here and we can drag across to scrub through our footage, but we also have the ability to do that down the bottom here too with this one here. So let's come back to the start of our project here, drag this one all the way to the left. So we can see we're right at the start of our first clip here in the timeline. Now we can actually customize up how this looks a little bit. So this is the default view here. But if we press on these 2 little arrows here, then we can actually expand out the audio track too. So we can see here the visual representation of the sound or of the audio. So we can really see here the pieces where I am speaking. So let's go ahead now and let's trim off the start of this clip, because you can see at the start, I was clapping to sync up the camera. I'm getting ready to talk, and we can visually see here the piece where I start talking. So we want to start our video from this point. So with this red bar or this playback indicator here at this point, there's a few different ways that we could cut this. We can come over here to the split clip button here. You can see that's now cut our clip into 2 at that point. We can select the first one. We can press delete on the keyboard, and that has now deleted that clip. So our video now starts at that point. Now, if I undo that by pressing Command Z or Control Z on the computer, so we've still just got the cut here, but I haven't removed that section. We want to make sure that we actually have ripple delete enabled. So I want to come over here next to the pair of scissors and want to make sure that ripple on is enabled. If I go ahead and turn that off now, so ripple isn't enabled, and we select this clip and we delete it, then you can see that it's deleted the clip, but has left this black area here, this blank area on our timeline. And there will be times when you want to delete a clip and close up the gap. How we switch between that is with this ripple on and off. So I'm going to enable that again. Let's select this dark area here. Let's press delete so that our video now starts at this point. Now let's jump across to the end of our project here. Let's trim off the end and let's come back to the piece here where I stopped talking. Now we could just come to this point here. Again, add another split in our clip. With the scissors, select that, press delete, and it's gone. Or if I undo that now, we also have the ability to grab the end of our clip here. So you see if I put my mouse over it, the cursor changes. I can click and drag on this and release it where I want that cut to finish. So now I'm just adjusting the end point of that clip. So we can see we've just achieved the same thing here. Now there's another really powerful tool to help you edit down a bunch of footage really fast. So I'll show you how that works now. If I undo this again, so we've still got the end of the clip here that we want to trim off. Let's find the place that we want to make our cut, or where we want our video to finish. And then we can come up here to this little drop down arrow here, edit actions. And then we've got this amazing tool here, trim start to playhead or trim end to playhead, or ripple edit, as is known in some other programs. So if we press this one here, trim end to playhead, it's going to trim off the end of our clip back to this playhead. And it's going to do it with one click. So if I press that now, That's actually happened for us. So our video now finishes at this point. So it was exactly the same as adding a cut, selecting the clip, deleting the clip, closing the gap, all with one click. But you've also got the option to trim back the other way as well, and I'll show you how that works. So let's come across here to where we want to delete this gap here where I'm clearly not talking. Let's come to this side here. Let's mark a cut here. So split our clip at this point. We could then come across to here where we want it to start again, come up here to this ripple edit, and we want to trim the start of our clip here to the playhead. So trim the start back to this point. One click and it's done. Now to save you just relying on clicking up in these menus and things to access these, there's some amazing keyboard shortcuts that are gonna streamline this dramatically for you and make it much, much faster. So let's come across here to where we wanna add a cut. Again, we can hit the scissors or we can press Command B or Control B. That's going to blade or split our clip at that point. And then let's come across to where we wanna ripple delete from. And instead of coming up to here and choosing that from here, trim end to playhead, we can use the keyboard shortcut Command Shift square bracket right for this one, trim to the end, or Command Shift square bracket left to trim back to the start, or Control Shift square bracket left and right if you're on Windows. So let's line this up here, Command Shift square bracket right. You can see that that's performed that ripple edit for us. It's also closed the gap and it's moved all of our clips along. So again, we're doing this on the cut page, but you can actually do all of this same stuff and so much more on the edit page. And this is where I actually find that I spend most of my time. And those keyboard shortcuts and everything work exactly the same in here. So I could add a cut in our timeline at this point, Command B. I could then come across to here. Let's say we want to remove this section here. I can then choose again, Command Shift square bracket right, and that's going to perform that cut and remove that clip for us. Now there are some extra editing modes on this page as well. If we wanted to remove this gap here, we could just click and drag back to remove that, but that's again going to leave us this gap in the timeline, which sometimes you might want. But if I undo this instead, and we come up here to enable this trim mode, so instead of us being in this select mode where we're clicking and dragging things around, we can now grab this side of that clip and drag it to the left, and it's going to close up that gap for us. So lots of different ways, as I said, to essentially do the same thing, but it's a great idea to understand the tools that you've got access to because it's going to speed up your editing dramatically. Just a reminder though, to come back to this selection mode once you're done in trim mode. And also navigating this timeline down the bottom here, we can zoom in and out using the slider here. You can also use Command or Control, plus and minus on your keyboard. And there's also a button right here to show your entire project or to zoom or punch in on that specific area as well. So you want to go through now and trim down your footage, remove any bad takes, any mistakes, anything that you don't want to have in your finished video project. Now, once you've through and done your first pass, removed all the bad stuff, each of these little chunks of footage, they're individual clips that you could click on, you could pick up, you could move around to help build out the story that you're after. The next step is to bring in any B-roll or overlay footage into your timeline here. So we can come back up here, we can go to footage, we can import our media. I'm just gonna grab a few different clips here, hit open. So we can see now we've got these clips up here in our preview window. If we put our mouse over them, then it gives us a preview of what it is that's happening in that clip. So we can quickly go through and preview all of our clips really, really fast. To add them to our timeline, we could just click and drag them down, and that's gonna bring in the entire clip. Or we can actually double click on them, and that's gonna open them in this preview window up here, and we can just map out. And we can just select the areas of these clips that we wanna use before we're bringing them down into our timeline here. So let's say that we wanted this clip to actually start about here. We can press I on the keyboard, and that's gonna mark an in point or where we want the clip to start. We can then play through or scrub through our footage here to find where we want it to end, probably about here. And we can press O on the keyboard to mark an out point or where we want it to finish. Now when we click and drag this clip down, we're just bringing in that section of the clip. But you can see before I let this go, we've brought in the video clip, the blue bit, and we've also got some audio for this clip as well. Before I release this, if we bring it back up here, we can choose if we want both of them to do what I did there, just click and drag down. Or we can choose, do I just want the video piece or just the audio piece? And I can click and drag from here. So if we just want the video clip, then I can just bring that down and the audio is left behind. So you want to go through now and bring in all of your B-roll or overlay footage, all the clips that you want to use in your timeline. So maybe we'll bring this entire clip down. So we've got the audio that's come in with this one. If we wanted to have the audio and we just wanted to mute it for now, we can either mute that audio layer too, because it is on its own layer here, by pressing here, mute the track. Or we also have the ability just to lower the volume on that clip. You can see if I move my cursor over this faint white line there, our cursor changes. We can then lower the volume down here to -100 decibels. So it's gonna be muted at that point. If we zoom in, again, like any other clip, we've got these handles on the sides that we can adjust the start and end points. We can add splits in our clips here if we need to. They're just treated the same as our primary footage. So maybe we'll make this one finish about here. Let's open up this clip here, double click on it to open it in preview here. Let's see if there's anything in here that we want to use. Maybe going around this corner here. So it's from a recent trip to Thailand. Okay, probably to about there. And let's bring this down to where we want it in our timeline here. And again, I will mute the audio for this one just by lowering it down. Okay, so go through, add in all your B-roll, your overlay footage at this point. Next, we're gonna add in any titles or text into our edit here. So I wanna come at the top here to effects. And you can see that when we've selected this, it's actually opened up this extra area of effects here for us. Now we can actually turn these on or off. So if we want effects to be bigger, then we can just disable the media pool and our effects are now gonna take up this whole area. So I like that this is customizable and you can really tailor this up for what you're doing in that moment. So we're just looking at effects now. In here, there is a bunch of stuff. What we're looking at right now is titles, and there's a bunch of presets in here for us to use. Everything from simple titles, which are these ones here. Some of them will have some animation, some of them will be static. And then we also have these fusion titles down the bottom here, which are really your animated titles, your fancier titles. And all of these are fully customizable right from the interface here. No need to leave and to open up another app or tool. Like even this one here, digital glitch, that looks pretty good. So we can just click and drag this down into our timeline where we'd like it. I'll put this one towards the start. Maybe we'll zoom in again with Command plus or Control plus. And let's scrub through this and we can see that it appears here on our preview window and then it glitches out. So we can edit this. We can double click on that and that's gonna pop up our inspector up here, which is where we can configure everything up. So if we scroll down here, you can see that we can edit the large text. We've also got then the smaller text. So it'd be large on the bottom, small one on the top. And we can change the fonts and colors and a bunch of stuff in here. So let's go the large text. Let's type in Justin Brown. We could change the font here. Let's go to Oswald. Maybe we'll make it bold. And let's just move across a bit here so we've got that effect that's actually finished so we can see what it is we're building out. Let's adjust the tracking so the letters are a little bit closer together. And let's come down here to our small text. So the top one, maybe we'll type in Primal video. Let's customize that up. Let's go Oswald. Let's again adjust the tracking. Now let's move it down a little bit so it's a little bit closer. Maybe we come up to the other one here. Let's move it up a little bit. And let's maybe make the smaller text here a different color. Let's pick our Primal video blue here. Let's go okay. And then let's come back to the top here and let's choose settings here. And this will let us then position this. So these title settings are the settings just for the titles and customizing it up. But if we choose settings, then these apply to the entire title itself. So we could make it bigger or smaller. We could adjust the X and Y position. So maybe we'll drop it down a little bit, maybe across a little bit. So it's centered on my shirt. And now when we play through this, you can see that we've quickly added this animated text that looks pretty good. So we're gonna go through now and add in any text or titles into your videos. From there, we're gonna add in any transitions and effects. So with this effects tab here still selected, again, if you're not seeing it, you can click on that. We're now gonna come over here to video transitions. And as with most video editing software, there's a lot of transitions in here. Some of these are really good. Others could make your videos look very, very average. I mean like a star wipe here, a heart wipe. So I'd suggest that you use these sparingly, but there are, I guess, some more advanced or more professional ones here down under fusion transitions with different glitches and things. So it's cool to have these in here as well. But let's come back to the top and let's just create a simple cross dissolve and let's put it on this clip here. So if we just played through this now before the clip, you can see I'm talking and then this clip just appears. which in a lot of cases, that's generally all I would do. But if we wanted to have this clip fade on, we can just click and drag this dissolve down to the start of that clip. And now when we play it, it's now going to fade or dissolve between the two. Likewise, if we want one on the end, let's grab this push. Let's put it on the end of that clip. And now let's play the end of it. You can see that it's wiped off to the side. So it's really easy just to click and drag these transitions onto your clips. Now, in the case of this video that we've got here, where there's say cuts in our clips, but they're the same camera, same footage, I wouldn't normally have a transition between the two, but instead what we could do, if we zoom in here, you'll be able to see this a bit closer, to remove that jarring little jump or glitch, we could just zoom in on one of these clips, the first one or the second, to make it look a little bit different. So let's select the second clip here. We want to come up to Inspector. If you're not seeing that already, make sure you're on video. And then here we could just zoom in a little bit. So now if we play this, it's going to be the first clip and then it jumps into the second one, or essentially zooms in. Now that can be a little jarring depending on the clip, but the way to really sell this effect is to try and line up, if it's a shot like this one, line up the person's eyes between the two, and it's gonna feel far less jarring for someone watching. So we can move it across, we could go down a little bit. So it's a lot better, a lot less jarring. Now, while you're doing this, it's also worth noting that there's other effects and things that you can apply at this point too. So let's come across and pick one of these other clips here. Again, up on this inspector area where I showed you how you could zoom in and reframe your shots, there's also some other tools in here too. Things like dynamic zoom. If we enable this, then this is automatically going to animate this clip for us. So if we play this now, you can see it's zoomed in and it's slowly animating this zooming out just by enabling this feature. So it's gonna save us manually keyframing this. If you've got shaky footage, you can also enable stabilization in here. If you've filmed on a GoPro or a really fisheye wide angle lens, you can correct that in here. Or to access more effects and things, back over here under effects over on the left-hand side here, we've got a dedicated area for effects. And this is where there's so much in here. Different borders, different glitch effects, different overlays, even a night vision effect. And again, to apply them, we're just clicking and dragging them down onto our clips here, and they will then have that effect applied. Now, it's worth noting at this point that the more effects and things you add, the more it can slow down your computer, especially if it's not that powerful. So if you find that just general timeline performance and scrubbing through your footage or playing back your clips is chugging along and really not that fluid, then we can come up here to playback. We can come down here to timeline proxy resolution, and you can drop the playback resolution from full to half or even to a quarter. And that's gonna lower the preview quality here, but it will speed things up for you. It's gonna take some of that pressure off. Once you've added your transitions and effects, next up, we're going to bring in any music or sound effects. So I wanna come back up here to media pool. Again, you could dive back to the media tab here if you'd like to and import it from there, but I'm gonna do it on the edit tab. We can then right click up here, choose import media, go ahead and find our music. And where we recommend you go for music tracks is Epidemic Sound and Artlist. Both of them are amazing resources with fantastic music, but also they make the licensing thing really, really simple. And we've been using them both for years and we've had no issues with copyright claims or any of that stuff, which is what you want. So I'm gonna go ahead now and find my music tracks. I've got this track here from Epidemic Sound. I'm gonna choose open. Again, it shows as another media clip up here. Now here I really should be filing this here under music, so it's categorized that we can find it later. But then to add this to our timeline here, again, we just click and drag and drop it down here, but we're gonna drop it right at the bottom here, so that it's on its own new audio layer. But again, just like any of our other clips, we can pick it up, we can move it around, we can trim off the start or the end, we can add cuts and really edit this down as if it was a regular clip. So we're gonna come across to the end here. We're going to shorten this down so that it finishes about the same time as our video here. Now you can see it's not snapping at this point. It's not snapping to line up with this. We can turn snaps on, this little magnet button here. We'll turn that on. And now if we come down here, it should snap to that end point for us. Now, if we zoom in on this a little bit more as well and come across to the end, let's say that we wanted this to fade out at the end. You can see when I put my mouse cursor over this clip, we get this tiny little handle that shows up in the top right-hand corner. That is our fade marker. So if I click on that and drag it to the left, then you can see that we're able to fade this track out. and it will tell you how long that fade is going to go for. So maybe here we'll go for 13 seconds. So over that last 13 seconds, it's going to fade out from our full volume level down to 0. We can do that at the start as well. If we want our music track to fade in at the start, maybe we'll have a quicker one. We'll grab that marker, drag it to the side, let it go, and that audio track is now going to fade in. Now what I'd normally do at this point is just lower the volume on this entire music track just a little bit so that it wasn't too loud, too overpowering. And we will get to the proper volume adjustments really soon. But now that we've just added this in, we now might want to make further adjustments to our primary footage, especially if we want to cut any clips to the beat of the music or adjust anything so that it matches. You'll want to go ahead and do that now. And once you've made any tweaks or adjustments to your overall clip now, then we're going to jump in and adjust our volume levels. And what we're going to do when we're editing our audio is focus on the primary audio first, the most important piece, which in this case is going to be me speaking. And then we'll do any music and sound effects and things after. So I'm going to mute this bottom music track here, so we're not going to hear it at all throughout this point. I'm then going to click over here on the side to enable our audio bars. You want to come down to show panel in workspace, and you want to turn on meters. This is so we can see our volume levels and make sure that we're adjusting things correctly. If we come back to the start of our clip here now and hit play, you can see that we have these audio bars, or this visual representation of our audio. So here what we want to do is adjust our volume levels up or down so that our audio is in the green, into the yellow, just into the red a little bit, but definitely not to the 0. Not to the top. If it hits the top there, it means it's too loud and it's distorting and it's gonna sound really, really bad. So we can either make adjustments to our clips here on a clip by clip basis. We can select the clip. If we find that faint line across the middle there, we can click and drag up to increase the volume, drag down to decrease the volume. Or with that clip selected up here under our inspector, and then on audio, you can see here that we also have our volume slider here as well. And that essentially does the same thing. The other thing that you'll see is as we make adjustments to this, our audio waveforms, or that visual representation there, is changing in real time as well. And it's a good indicator for you if something is too loud. You can see that as we make it bigger here, there's areas here that are flattening out on the top and the bottom. That's a good indicator that they're too loud, that they're maxing out. You can see if we stretch this right out, we've got a lot of these areas now in here which are touching the top and the bottom. So those are too loud. It's a good indicator. So we're going to bring this back down. So this is where you're going to be hitting play. You're listening to what this sounds like, ideally with headphones on, so you're getting a good representation. You're monitoring the audio bars over here to make sure that it's not too loud, and you're making your adjustments that way. So again, they can be done on a clip by clip basis, but if you've got footage like I have here where it's all same camera, same microphone, and nothing should be changing, then you can also do it on an entire track level as well. So we can come over here to our audio meters here, and if you're not seeing that, the other way to turn it on is with this mixer button. Press the 3 little dots here and let's switch this to mixer. And then you can see if we drag this out, we actually get a volume level control for each one of our audio tracks here. So audio 1 is our primary audio here. We can adjust the entire track, so every clip that's on that track up or down, just using this volume control here that lines up with that track. Likewise, audio 3 for our music, we could adjust the entire music using this slider here. Now let's just come across to this next clip here, because you can also manually adjust different points of your clips with the volume as well. So let's just say that we wanted this at our standard volume level right up until around here. We'll then drop the volume level down, and then we'll bring it up a little bit later in this clip. We could go through, we could add cuts into our clips like this. So we're cutting that clip up. We could then lower the volume at that point, and that might be all you need. But if we undo that, let's remove those cuts. We can also do that with more control using keyframes. So let's come across to around here. Let's add a keyframe for our volume. So we hit on this button here. We can see we've got this red dot there now. Let's come across a bit further. Let's add another keyframe. So the way this will work is at that first keyframe, we'll say, let's keep the audio the same right up until that point. The next keyframe is where we want to actually set our new volume level. So we can say at this point here, maybe we'll lower the volume. And that's then going to stay at that lower volume level until we want to bring it back up. So let's just say that we want it to start getting louder again here. We can press and add another keyframe here at that point, come across to where we want it back to our original volume level. We then add another keyframe there and increase the volume back to where we want it. And so we've been able to manually control our audio. So it's full volume level, drops down at this point, stays at the lower volume level, and then comes back up to our new volume level. So again, lots of different ways that we can do things. Now, another really cool feature here in Resolve is this dialogue leveler. So we can select our clips on the timeline here that we want to apply this to. We can then come up here to dialogue leveler, enable that. And this is automatically going to adjust our volume for us for this spoken piece, for the dialogue. So we can have it reduce loud dialogue, we can have it lift soft dialogue, we can also remove some background noise in here as well. And this works really, really well. So once you've got your primary audio sorted, we can then adjust the volume levels on your music track. Again, if you've muted it like I have here, you want to unmute it first so you can hear it. But again, this is a creative thing. It's a form of art. There really is no right or wrong as to how loud or quiet your music should be. And it is also going to come down to a track by track basis. Some music tracks are going to be louder than others. Some videos you will want music louder than others. So I would be hitting play on this and I would be making adjustments to this audio track to get it to where I want it so that it's not too overpowering, so we can still hear what's being said, but it's still adding some feeling or emotion to the video. When that's done, it's now time to color grade or color correct your video. And we do that here over on this dedicated color tab. Now this thing is its own real dedicated program in here. I'm sure there's literally courses out there that are just on how to use this page. But as this is a beginner tutorial, I'm going to show you some of the key things in here so you can tweak and adjust your colors, make it look the way that you like. And then when you're ready, you can dive in deeper. So on this color page here, again, we can see we've got our preview up here of our edit. We can see each of our clips in the timeline here. So I'd suggest that you start off with your first clip selected here. And then down the bottom here, we have an abundance of tools. You can see that there is just so much in here. But in terms of tweaking or adjusting the colors, the place I'd recommend that you start, especially if you're on the beginner end of things, is on this primaries color wheel area. And you can see in here, we've got the ability to change our color temperature, the tint, contrast, the pivot, the midtones or the detail. We've also got these circle things down the bottom here, lift, gamma, gain, offset, and a bunch of different ways that you can control and manipulate all of these things too. For instance, if we start off first with this lift area here, we've got this little color wheel in the center, which we can pick and grab the center bullseye mark. If we press and hold on it and move it around, you can see that we're adjusting the colors of the dark area of our shots. So if we wanted to add more blue, we can pull it towards the blue, obviously not too much. If we wanted to add more warmth, then we can drag it more towards the yellow or the orange. But these here generally are only small or minor movements. So we can control these up here. We also have these sliders down the bottom, which we can drag to the left and to the right. And you can see if I drag it to the right, it's gonna brighten those darker areas of the shot. And if we drag it to the left, it's going to darken those dark areas of the shot. And again, this is a creative thing. You can use these to really dial in the look and feel that you're after for your shot. But where I'd start is with this slider down the bottom here, dragging this to the left or right till you get the shot looking the way that you like in terms of brightness for those dark areas. Next, I jump across to gamma and do the same thing, just tighten that up a bit further. And then again for gain, again, just small tweaks and adjustments, and then we've got offset after that. Now, once you've gone through and tweaked and adjusted those there, I'd probably suggest then coming up to the color temperature here and dragging this to the left or to the right. From there, we can adjust the tint. So if the camera you're using has given you a bit of a green tinge or maybe a pink tinge, we can adjust to compensate or to remove for that. And then I'd be looking at this contrast slider to either add contrast or remove some. And then down the bottom here, you've got your color boost and your saturation to change the amount of color that's actually used in the shot. So you can see if I increase this, it's amplifying the colors. So we might want to take a little bit of that out there and just have it increase just a little bit. Maybe something like that. Now there is also an auto setting adjustment in here as well. If you have no idea about this stuff or you don't want to play with it yet, the auto adjustment can be pretty good too. So we've already added a color grade here now, this effect or these adjustments to this first clip. And we can see that because it's now got a color outline around it here. Let's jump to the next clip, which hasn't been graded or corrected. Already we can see the difference between the two. But this time, instead of manually adjusting stuff, let's just hit the little A here. And it's going to automatically analyze and adjust our shot for us based on what it thinks is a good look. I mean, it's not bad, and it could be a good starting point for you that then you could come in here and you could make some adjustments. Like we could tone down the colors just a little bit. So maybe something like that. But once you've got your look or your color grade that you want to apply to the rest of your clips, then you just select it here, come over to your preview window here. You can right click and choose grab still. And that's going to take a snapshot of all of those adjustments that you've made. And you can see that we've got that up here. So then you can just go through on a clip by clip basis, select the clip, right click on this still that you've got, and we can apply the grade to that clip. We can also select these in bulk. So we can select a clip, hold down Command or Control and select more clips here. And then we can apply that grade to all of those clips at once. And you can have multiple stills or multiple looks that you could be applying to different clips here. But the process is the same for your B-roll or your overlay footage too. You can select the shots here, you can make the adjustments that you want, and then you can apply it to similar clips as you need to. So it's obviously a very quick, a very high level intro to color grading in DaVinci Resolve. But once that step is done, then it's time to deliver your project, to save it out. So we want to come over here to the Deliver tab. And then over on the left-hand side here, we've got a bunch of different settings that we can customize up. There's some presets in here for H.264, H.265, ProRes. If you want to have a really high quality export, it will be a large file that way. But if we scroll across here, there's also some presets in here for things like YouTube, TikTok, Dropbox, and even ways that you can export and share your projects with other editing software too. And let's choose YouTube 1080p because that was the project that we created. We can then give our file a name. We can choose a location of where we want to save this. Let's just put it under movies. We can then confirm our resolution and frame rate are correct. We also have the ability here to check this box and upload directly to YouTube. That's not something that I generally use. I'd rather save it out on the computer, check that it's all good, and then upload it once I know it's all good. So even though this is here, I don't really use this. But if you do want to customize up things more than just using the presets, then that's where you could come back here and choose like an H.264 master, and you could really key everything in if that's what you need to do. So let's just come back over here to YouTube. And once we've got everything set up the way that we want it, we can choose add to render queue. Your render queue shows up at the side here. So if we wanted to create different versions and queue them all up, so we wanted, say, a ProRes master version as well, we can add that to the queue. You can see we've now queued up a couple of them. And then when you're good to go, good to save out your project, then that's where you'll want to hit render, or render all in this case. And that's going to go through and that's going to save out your projects for you. Now that you know how to edit in DaVinci Resolve, don't forget to download our free PDF guide, which is the complete video editing process that you can print out. You can follow along when you're editing your videos, no matter what tool or app you're using. This is the most efficient way to edit your videos down with minimal wasted time and rework. So grab your copy linked on screen, and I will see you in the next video.